Hey everybody, Mike Claiborne here, and welcome to another edition of the podcast. We talk to a lot of fun people along the way in this business and sports and entertainment, but we've got something I think is going to be even more special. We're going to have a chance to talk to a very special person who's got a very special project, and it's presented by our good friends from Ameren, Illinois. So before I go any further, why don't you take a look?
5 years ago, retired Judge Annette Eckert started teen court in St. Clair County, an alternative for young, nonviolent first-time offenders. Instead of having a criminal charge on their permanent record, offenders can admit their guilt and have their case heard by a jury of teenage peers who decide what the respondent needs to do to make things right.
Here, they get the chance to tell their story, and we get to ask the mother, the father, whoever, brother, sister, what do you think about this? What can you do at home to help them out?
Are you still friends with the people who you're with that night?
They're teenagers, we're teenagers, and so they'll talk about high school bullying or whatever, peer pressure, and we can relate to that. I mean, we may have different backgrounds, but at the heart of it, we're all teenagers.
More than 150 teens have graduated from teen court, and in 5 years, less than 5% of them have been repeat offenders. That's about 40% better than the Illinois recidivism rate. And it's made possible in part thanks to $25,000 Ameren Illinois contributed to support the St. Clair County Teen Court.
If you can get to those young people at a very young age, whether it's 13, 14, 15 years old, and make a difference in their life, and it's worth every penny we spend in trying to fund programs like this to better our communities.
Because we seriously believe we're saving our future one teen at a time, because that's what it's all about.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, you had a chance to see firsthand what it was all about with regard to the teen court. And with us today is the Honorable Annette Eckert. She's kind of been the quarterback of this whole event. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me.
Mike, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the program itself. You've got some time under your belt now. Over 5 years, you've been part of this program and really created it. How did it actually start? And what have you noticed so far about the progress and some of the kids you've had to deal with?
Thank you. I wish I could tell you that I was such a smart person that I thought of this and thought, created this out of my own brain. But it was actually a student that I was teaching at Lindenwood University in Belleville who found out about some teen courts and did some reports on them. And it was very intriguing to me because for years, I was on the bench for 20 years, most of those in criminal court. I was on the other end. I was the person sentencing people, seeing them after they'd already been in the system because I'd been in felony court. So here, this teen court that was an opportunity to give somebody a second chance was really interesting to me. So I started researching it and brought it to the attention of some people in St. Clair County, specifically the Juvenile Justice Commission. They said, go for it. And there it was. So it was something I learned from one of my students that actually started this.
Now, when you start a program, it's always a challenge to get people engaged and being involved. How did you approach that with kids? Because they already had a strike against them in some cases, and B, they weren't sure where this was going to take them. So how did you get kids involved?
When a teen is charged and they're a first-time nonviolent offender, the state's attorney's office refers them to teen court. And we have an administrator that contacts them and prior to the pandemic, met with them personally, with the family and with the teen, explained everything, and explained to them that if they accepted responsibility for this and accountability, that this was an opportunity for them to come before people their own age to determine what responsibility did they have and how could they repair the harm. If they accomplished the remedies that the teens wanted them to accomplish, then the charge, the blemish on their record forever, was not ever going to be filed, and their record would be completely clean. That is a very attractive thing to teens and to families. If they want to go into the military, if they want to go into law enforcement, if they want to get that scholarship, that's a very attractive enticement that they can maintain their clean record.
This is a great corporate community program as far as getting corporate involvement. And one of the leaders of this has been Ameren, Illinois, making some contributions to get this off the ground because none of these things come free. How important is it for you as a judge and also working with these young people to have that corporate involvement, especially with Ameren, Illinois leading the way?
Well, teen court has no state funds and no federal funds. This is funded by our community, a community investment. And to have Ameren make this a priority in what they invest in the community and make giving teens a second chance a priority, that's a big statement. That's a big statement. And I think it has really helped us get more participation from the community to those people who make a contribution every year to teen court, to other groups. So I think, their leadership and their investment in teens, giving them a second chance, has really set the tone. And we can't thank them enough.
I know Richard Mark talked about it was an investment in the community because these young people will move on and do other things on a positive side. What are some of the results you've seen so far? I mean, you've gone through over 5 years now and you've had some kids that have moved on with their lives. So how are things stacking up numbers wise?
Well, our goal when we started was to have a less than 10% recidivism rate. After 5 years and nearly 200 graduates, in fact, we've got our 200th graduate coming up here soon, we have an 8.3 recidivism rate, which honestly is unheard of.
You're right.
So I think it shows that early intervention and also the involvement of other teens, giving them that second chance, applauding them, congratulating them, wishing them well, is very positive in turning something around. And our statistics show that. And we've had some amazing stories come out of this, that we have a graduation and the young lady, we just didn't know if it was going to make it to college. She couldn't make graduation because she was already in college, but she wanted to come back on her break and get her diploma and her teen court pin. Stories like that I know still give me goosebumps. The young man in the military, the young man who was able to get his sports scholarship. I mean, those kinds of stories are really what keeps you involved with this sort of thing.
Now, we call this teen court for a reason, because we're talking about teenagers that are going to be on trial. We're going to talk about teenagers that are the jury as well. So this is something that's managed all by the people it is directly geared for. How does that actually work as far as the selection process? We already know we have some candidates to be in front of the court, but how does that work?
We have teens from almost every high school in St. Clair County, and we allow the high schools to determine what teens to send. We give some criteria that they have to be able to make a commitment and be there and be interested in this area, and then they choose. And we do that. We allow so many teens per school based on their population so that we try and be fair to everyone. One of the things that I've really enjoyed also is what this provides for the teens that serve as our peer jurors. They really value the experience. They believe that it broadens their view of life. They get to meet teens from other schools. And one of the words that constantly comes up is empathy, that they have learned empathy. And that's an important thing to learn in high school.
As you've gone through, as you mentioned, over 200 cases, are there any common cases that you're starting to see more of, where maybe we can focus in that area to prevent these opportunities for kids to get in trouble?
One of the things that we've learned about and now we train on is trauma. That oftentimes there's something that's happened in a teen's life and they're acting out. They've had the loss of a parent who they've cared for and who passed away, and it's Christmas and they end up going to the mall and deciding they need something special and they get charged with theft. Right now, we're also seeing another type of trauma during this pandemic. We're seeing a lot of homelessness. In fact, it's one question that I've discussed with the teens that when they question, they need to ask about that. Oftentimes it's not on police reports because the teen does not want to tell a police officer that they've been homeless because they're afraid they might be taken away from home. But they'll tell their fellow teens. And we have some wonderful resources that have become available. So unfortunately, the latest trauma that we're seeing is homelessness and lack of food sources. But we're asking, and they're opening up to that.
You mentioned resources. I know as people watch this, there are things that they like to do to get involved and maybe help out. What are some of the ways adults can get involved, and even teens who see that maybe they can help in some way, shape, or form?
Yes, our website, Teen Court Foundation, SCC, right there are many ways you can donate, and also send us an email and let us know. We have not only teens, but we have adult volunteers, because when each teen in the family is assigned an adult that kind of manage them through. And also we've started restorative justice conferencing, where we train people on conferencing. That's when we have not only a teen, but we have a victim that's involved. If there was a theft from that victim, then they come together, the teen, their family, the victim, the teens that we have from the high schoolers, our peer jurors, but members of the community. And everyone has to decide what remedies the teen should perform to accept accountability and repair the harm. So we have a lot of opportunity for adult involvement as well. On Martin Luther King Day, which of course is a service day, we recognized all the volunteer hours. And we've had over 20,000 volunteer hours, and that's probably conservative, in the last 5 years. That's a lot of community involvement. And we would welcome people being involved. I think it's very rewarding. All of our volunteers are very dedicated.
Well, you know, I get the feeling somewhere down the road, you and I are going to have a conversation about a teen court participant who went on to be a very prominent and successful lawyer, if not successful judge. So you better look over your shoulder. The next great judge might come from teen court.
Oh boy, that would be wonderful.
Hey, Judge, thank you so much for your time. More importantly, thank you for what you and Ameren Illinois are doing for our community. Best of luck, and keep up the great work, and make sure you stay safe.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure.